Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. This is going to be my first in the series of DLC testing videos. Now these are all first impressions. This is the first time I've run the alert and just kind of recording commentary over it. In the past I've done just music or something in the past, but more people prefer like a commentary and kind of like a first impressions walkthrough of the actual alert. So this is what I'm going to be doing here. As well, if you're new to my channel, each DLC that's on test server, I do separate videos for each aspect of it. So this is the alert. I'll touch on one of the solo, the open world bounties, the raids, the elite raids, all like the changes like R&D, augments, OP collections, everything like that. So every single aspect of this test, this DLC episode on test, you'll have a video for, so be able to be fully prepared and know what to expect going into the DLC that comes out September 12th. So this will kind of be my first insider series here. So this is the Batman Metal Part 1. This is the Batcave Breach 4-player alert. And for some of you, it'll seem really familiar at the start already. And that's because this is essentially a copy and paste of Inner Sanctum, the raid, 8-player raid. The first part was usually where a cap won't help you out. You have to turn the 4 cogs to progress. That was like halfway through the raid. So they brought that back at the beginning. So you just have to all turn the 4 cogs more or less together. And then you get to this section here. Now we're kind of doing this wrong here. Same thing. It's the whole like concept of like DPS tunnel vision. You know, I'm guilty of this as well. You're supposed to see those little canisters with the lightning symbol on them. You're supposed to go up to them, destroy them first, so that because the perimeter drone or perimeter guard, sorry, will infinitely respawn. So if you don't destroy those canisters, they're just going to keep popping out of it, and then you just be killing ads forever. So really, you have to destroy those first. Eventually, I go back and do it after I realize that I have DPS tunnel vision on. So yeah, destroy these first. Then it makes it a lot easier. Then you just kill the ads are there. Talk to Nightwing and kind of progress there. So just don't forget that in pugs that if you just kind of keep killing ads, they're going to keep spawning infinitely. But it's a shame that this alert was brought back in copy paste form. Inner Sanctum is one of my favorite raids. You'll see it. I've rated S tier in my tier ranking raid video. Inner Sanctum has so many great mechanics, so many great NPCs in it. It's great length. Requires a lot of teamwork and coordination. Like if they had an Inner Sanctum Elite raid, then you know that would be on par with like SG Elite, or even probably on par with like Nexus and Paradox in Elite form. But it's a shame that it was brought back essentially just for, like, I wouldn't say like a gag, but it's a whole thing like, oh, this is like a Batman themed DLC, so we're just gonna plug and play some old Batman aspects of alerts, because they got obviously all the Batcaves, Inner Sanctum, Outer Caverns, Inner Sanctum, and Subcontract to pull from. So there's plenty of Batman content they can copy and paste for. So it just seems like this was just really quick, quick and dirty copy and paste for it. So that's the unfortunate side for me. A lot of people, I do understand that a lot of new players of the game, they probably don't really know Inner Sanctum, so it might seem like really, a refresher for them or something interesting, which is fine. In this part, you have to kill the anti-assault turrets. They're just going to fire beams that ground you, that half your movement speed, which are annoying. They kind of have a lot of health to them, which I noticed, but same thing. You just kill them, kill the ads, kill them, and then talk to Robin, and then you get to progress to the first boss. So, and the first boss, you'll see more of this kind of copy and paste to it once the door actually opens. And we're going to get to the first boss here. There we go. So the first boss, this is going to be familiar to anyone as well if you've done the Inner Sanctum raid. This is the Armored Ark Custodian, or the Ark boss. So essentially, if you haven't done the raid, he follows the exact same mechanics as the raid. So what happens is, while you fight him, a bunch of ads are going to come out. There's going to be specific ads that he can absorb, and basically when he absorbs them, he gains an ability from them. Now the thing is, I didn't see all of them. Usually there's about 6 or 7 that he can absorb from, and then if you don't want him to absorb something that's a bit more dangerous, you have to kill that ad, and then he'll absorb the other one, because it's like 2 different ones will come out. So then it's each time, it also seems like it follows the exact same mechanic as the raid, where each time you get 20% down in health, roughly 20%, he's shielded, and then basically he doesn't do any damage and goes to an absorb phase, which you'll see here. Arc gains the stun beam. So it's pretty much the exact same, probably just toned down. So the Rester drone that you saw there, that's the stun beam. So basically it's an unbreakable single target stun, which is going to be super annoying for any kind of precision DPS, because you're going to be in the middle of like a weapon mastery combo and just get hard stunned out of it. So that's going to be an interesting L for them. The pacifier drone I saw, that's Riot Form. You see this also. Riot Form is just it's a more powerful version of his encase, and it lasts for a few seconds. It's not going to kill you, it's just going to be annoying. And as you can see, the group makeup for this are 3 DPS and a tank. You could run a healer too. There's a lot of adds, but it's not necessarily required for a tank. I don't think anything in here is really strong enough to kill you if you didn't have a heal. Like obviously you'll see some deaths here, but that's more that we have a tank, no proper healing over time. So there is still some spike damage, and we're all in past DLC gear. I think Super Holman has some blue and green drops from the new raid. Angry is rage tanking for the very first time in his life, and I'm in 270 gear, which is just like the regular drop, so is red light. So it's we're not even in current DLC gear because we don't obviously have OP items. So essentially, the other forms that I did see a security drone. Security drone is basically the robot sidekick one, so it's just going to fire rocket barrage. It's going to do a lot of damage in close range. So if you stay range, you're completely fine. I saw wing armor. That's the whirlwind attacks. Who's going to spin around and create like a vortex, dealing damage. That's not too bad. Mega Sentry, I saw that he does a sonic blast. It's basically just severely damages everyone like mid range. A lot of basic stuff. The two that I did not see, it may be they took them out of this fight, or the fight just didn't last long enough, because it's just a single target burn fight. I did not see the Omak Prime, which is the Doomspin. The Doomspin was the most powerful whirlwind attack at that time. It does massive damage, so if you didn't have a healer, you're probably going to die if you're in close, because it's all melee damage, and it knocks you back. And I didn't see the Omak, which was the Energy Blast. The Energy Blast is just focusing, it's just focused towards a tank. So if there's no tank, then it could hurt you, because it's just going to pick a random target at that point. So maybe the Omak and the Omak Prime are in there. Maybe they're not. But if you do see them, that's what they do. You definitely do not want the Ark to absorb Doomspin, which is the Omak Prime. Usually wing armor is annoying too. So kill the wing armors, kill the Omak Primes. Everything else is kind of, if he gets it, then he gets it. But other than that, it's really just a straight single target fight. There's a bunch of other ads that come up, but you can largely ignore them. It's not too much of an issue at all, especially if you had a healer. Then it wouldn't be any issue at all to heal through them. It's just basically just there to split damage and kind of confuse you about if a wing armor or something comes out and you kill the perimeter guards. Well, the perimeter guards do nothing, so he's just going to absorb the wing armor right away. And the fight's about to come to an end there. So in terms of, just while in the downtime we're talking, in terms of the feats, Milbarge doesn't have a lot of the feats out for this alert yet. I think he's still working on some of the cutscenes too that I saw in the forums. So this won't be the final version of how we see the alert. There could be some more feats coming, because usually like in the past couple DLCs, like the Atlantis School and not the Teen Titans one. Drawing a blank. I don't know. You usually there's like 10, 11 feats for the alerts. That they're very feat heavy. I don't see how they could possibly do that with this. With this alert, I don't see how they could add like 10 feats to it, because there's nothing mechanic wise to it. Like, yeah, they could do, like in the Inner Sanctum, you had a feat where he had to absorb each rendition of the ads. They could do something like that again, which they might, because that's just more copy and paste. So this is the one new aspect to the fight. The room is the same, but this is not something from Inner Sanctum. And then you're going to see the boss come out in a moment. And it's going to be Bane. And obviously you're going to know what Bane does. So once again, this fight, there's a bunch of ads, but it's still a single target fight. So that's why I switched to a single target armory. And I haven't been Earth in a while, so a bit sloppy rotation, but kind of get the point there. So speaking of solar amplifier and heat vision, I did get some confirmation from Batuba on the changes. You're not clipping heat vision is a bug. That's why I don't do it in this video, because that's just obviously a bug. So there's no point of doing that and showing you guys what's not going to be like that on live. So heat vision being clippable is a complete bug. The other thing that's a bug is being able to move around. So I do that in heat vision. So when you see me walk around, you're not going to be able to do that because, like I said in my artifact testing video, that locks you into animation. So you can jump, you can't cancel it, you can't block, you can't do anything. And Batuba doesn't want that for, you know, very good reason. So I think he's trying to find something like a compromise that'll work, but at the moment it's not going to be completely being able to move around because you're locked in animation. So if Bane did some skull attack that was going to kill me and I hit heat vision, then I'm stuck. Like, I can't block, can't do anything, can't cancel, can't jump block, can't weapon tap cancel. You're absolutely locked into that heat vision animation. So Bane, he's got some little bit more interesting attacks. He picks up that pipe, he spins it in like a whirlwind. He can throw that spin at you. It did like 10k damage. Some rocks fall. So actually, this fight is the only like new fight. I wouldn't say it's interesting, but it's obviously at least a new encounter to the fight. And we've got so basically Bane. All his damage is going to be... he's going to charge as well, too. I think I got hit by a charge in the beginning. And basically, he charges to the wall, then picks up the pipe from it, and then spins it, knocks around. So, as you can see, I should have had the combat log up. I thought I had it enabled in the chat. That'll be enabled for the other ones, just so you can see the damage. So you can see it on the screen, too. So, obviously, Bane is going to be massive melee damage. So, this is... if you have a healer, you could probably survive this. I'm not sure what kind of damage Bane will do to a tank, but... whoever he's focused on, he's going to do all his melee attacks on. He's going to do his spin, so it's going to be probably a lot of damage in melee range. Like you just saw me, you know, die there from his stomps, and killed Red Light as well. So it might be a more manageable fight with a healer, or it might be a lot of damage for healer too, because the DPS might just have the kite the whole time. But we'll see. Obviously, every single alert fight's not going to have 3 DPS and a tank. They could have. Well, obviously you could have a tank and a healer as well, but. It's still left to see if it's still up in the air if this fight will require a tank and a healer, or 3 DPS and a healer will be fine. But obviously you don't need a troll, that's for sure. But other than that, it just really comes down to a single target. I'm not entirely sure. You see that street soldier carrying that that canister. I'm not entirely sure what happens if it reaches Bane, if it like powers him up at all, because it knocked out of his hand. So that could happen, but you just have to watch his skulls. He'll charge out, he'll slam you, then he'll do like his stomps. He just does his hand clap. He charges the wall like he's about to now. Picks up the pipe, spins the pipe around. You know, it's very easily or very largely telegraphed fights. But obviously it's a lot of high damage because like he'll do like his not hand blaster, the brawling combos with the pipe in hand, and then that, you know, obviously just took out Red Light there. But other than that, it just comes to a basic, just single target burn. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of ads that'll split damage. The fight takes a bit longer, but that's really all it is there. And you see me get the mod box. And then what happens next is that basically now that Hal Jordan's out, and it's no longer a Batman-only instance, now we skip over to more copy and paste from the Lantern. So now we can travel to Oa. And essentially, Oa, this is a copy and paste from, I think there's a solo instance. I think there's the artifact instance. It's a duo instance. They recycled this Oa section here a lot in DC as well. So same thing, you go through the hallways, you kill the ads. We'll talk to Hal Jordan here. And you can see there in the chat, it's, I don't know, it's one of my tiny pet peeves with the test server. So I get it, it's a test server, you're supposed to be, like, you know, it's available to try new powers. But the only thing is, when you're testing a DLC and testing its difficulty, it's not really for the place to have someone like, oh, I've never used this power, like, I've never healed before in my entire life, let's go hop in a raid. It's like, well... Other people are trying to like actually go through the content. We're not trying to test new powers. We actually want to clear the content to provide, you know, proper feedback. So you can't really provide proper feedback to a dev when like healers in your groups or tanks in your group are doing it for the first time in their entire lives. Or like, I've never been a rage tank before. I've never been, you know, electric healer. So let's just jump in a brand new raid and try to electric heal. You know, so it's, I don't know, it's just a pet peeve of mine. test server is completely for that, but I feel like when a new DLC hits test server, you should be doing roles that you're comfortable with so that you can provide actual feedback. So it's not like, oh, this is really hard, but like I've never tanked before, so that's why I find it hard. It's like, well, that's kind of biased, skewed feedback there, because it's like you can't say this is hard from a tank when you don't even know how to tank, or you don't need proper shield rotations or whatever. So it's like you find that a lot with Elite. That's why it's really hard to do Elite testing on test server unless you have an actual group. Because if everyone wants to run Elite, they all want to see what it's like, or see the rewards and all that kind of stuff, or get OP collections on test, or get the max gear, max mods, or generated mods. So they want to run Elite. So you always see those shouts in the chat saying, "Oh, let's try Elite, let's try Elite." But then you get in there, and that group is full of like, "Oh, I've never healed before. Like I'm usually a controller on live, so I'm just trying out healing." How are you supposed to like test an Elite raid, which is designed to be hard when you're doing roles that you've never been before? It's like, well, I'm normally a fire DPS, but I'm just gonna try Earth for the first time in my entire life. So it's like, well, okay, so you're doing an Elite raid that you've never done before as Earth, so you don't know like the proper armories for it. It could be like, because with Elite, if you've never done it before, it could be like single target base. You might not be able to melee, so then you gotta do like a range armory at the same time, or change powers in your loadout to be range. And if you've never been that powerful, you're not as comfortable with those switches. So it's, once again, it's just a pet peeve of mine. So now we get to Sinestro at the end. I don't think he was in the actual like duos and copy and paste. So this might be, I know as the fight goes on, it is a new fight because you have some of these robots in the back, robot constructs. I'm not really sure what they did. As you see, they just spawned here. I'm not sure if I'm sure that there's going to be like a feed or something when you kill it. I just ignored it. I think I died a couple times to probably some pushback. Same thing, there's these turrets here. Oh yeah, and I took some massive damage there. I'm not sure what that was from. Was that from the turret? I don't know. It would help if I had the combat log up, but I was a moron and didn't turn it on. But yeah, obviously there's some still sections where you can die in this. It might be that I was in melee range, but at the same time, I just ignore the turrets, I ignore the robots, and let the splash damage from the AoE kill them. Oh, Sinestro, I think he healed a bit there. Either way, it's a straightforward single target burn fight. I'm hard locked on Sinestro, I'm killing him, and obviously once he's dead, the turrets and everything else will go away. So I'm sure there's some feats tied to not having to kill certain things, but we'll see when the feats come out. Yeah, so he just Sinestro empowered the robots. I'm actually just watching back the footage for the first time, because I remember that I died once, but I didn't really see what it was from. Oh, yeah, that's explosion pushback. So I think that was when the robot construct actually left. I don't know, so it's probably one of those things where you're supposed to kill it, but if you don't, he does an explosion proc if you don't kill it in time. Obviously, Sinestro does a lot of melee damage, that's why Red Light keeps dying, because he's a rage DPS. Or it could be crashing either way, but even then, fight's about the end. And that was it. So I think this was about I think when the scoreboard comes up, it'll be about 18 minutes. Obviously, we took a bit longer in certain sections. Obviously, you'll see that the damage was a bit lower. So the thing is, this alert will become really easy on live server. Like if it was an 18-minute alert with just like pugs and a tank that never tanked before, there's some deaths from the healer. We didn't wipe it all, but obviously this alert will come down to like 15 minutes or something, or even between 10 and 15 minutes on live server. But that's the alert. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching.